What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my refined review and builds guide for Gerik, Kempf, Ross, and Perceval. So Gerik has got a really good weapon refine and it's definitely one of the better refines from this patch because of how unique it is. So Desert Tiger Axe gives him quick and pulse effect, which is really good for making him just have less cooldown. I kind of wish this was time pulse, but quick and pulse is also really good. And then comes the good part with Omni Pulse minus some special cooldown effect to allies that have got less HP than Gerik. So this is basically building on Infantry Pulse, but this is an Omni Pulse effect, kind of like what we have seen before on Legendary Hector. So this is extremely good for Gale Force teams and for just charging up specials of the allies. And then at start of turn, the following effects are given to Gerik and the allies with lower HP than Gerik's for one turn. And this is going to be including +6 attack and speed buff, debuff neutralization status that we have seen before on Peony, and the null panic status that we have seen on Legendary Azura and Ashera. So completely making your allies debuff proof and panic proof is really amazing, and being a buff bot on top of that is really good. So not only he can pulse down the allies but also provide extra status effects, which is really good, and he himself makes use of this as well. But that's kind of secondary in nature because providing the support is what makes him unique and not the fact that he gets this himself. Of course, getting this himself is a good part, but still I feel like giving this to the other allies is what makes this weapon refine really good. So that is the support part of the weapon refine, and then he's able to get +8 to all of his stats himself, and also gets +X to all of these stats depending on the highest buffs to each stat among himself and the allies in 3 spaces. So he can get a lot of stats in the combat itself, and it's not like his combat is lacking either because he gets 30% damage reduction on foe's first attack and also has the half tempo effect, which is basically null guard. So he can Gale Force himself really well as well because not only he's going to be supporting Gale Force allies but also Gale Forcing himself because of the half tempo effect. So I feel like this kind of effect is really amazing for any kind of Omni Tank support or any kind of God Sword support. And being an infantry unit, he has got access to supportive skills like Sudden Panic, Pulse Ties, Infantry Null Follow-Up, and so many of the other skills which he can support the allies with, on top of the status effects which he gives out of his weapon. And he's also going to be really good in the Gale Force teams in Aether Raids offense because of the Omni Pulse effect, because not only you're going to be pulsing down the infantry allies, but even the flying allies or the cavalry allies, you're going to be able to pulse them down, which is extremely good. So I'm a big fan of this weapon refine being a Gale Force player, but even if you want to support a Omni Tank or a God Sword, it is really easy to do, and it's not even like you have to ally support them, kind of like what you have to do with Valyria. So Gerik, in my opinion, has got a really solid weapon refine, and stuff like this does age better because of the supportive effect that it gives you and how unique it can be. And we haven't really seen any kind of other unit give these many status effects like debuff neutralization and null panic at start of the turn. And this is not even following any kind of proximity. You don't really need to be like within 2 spaces of Gerik to get this. You just need to have less HP than Gerik and you're going to be able to get this. So the buff is global, which is amazing, and it can be really helpful in something like Summoner Duels, where you're going to be running some kind of raid boss team. On a budget, Gerik is going to be used with HP +5 as the Sacred Seal and also in the slot A, and he's going to be used in something like Arena Assault or Limited Hero Battles for just buffing up the allies and being a nice buff bot, on top of having Infantry Pulse, so you can pulse down like 2 cooldown, which is really helpful for the infantry allies for, pre-charging their Vital Astra and stuff, and Sudden Panic support is also really good. Then you can also use him in something like Aether Raids offense with Defense Rest Link so that he can completely buff up an ally, and you can even run Infantry Null Follow-Up. So with the Pulse effect, you can pre-charge Vital Astra on a -1 special cooldown unit, and you also have Asker there, so you can pretty easily charge Vital Astra. So that's why you can not run Infantry Pulse, and if you're going to be buffing up a God Sword, then Infantry Null Follow-Up and giving them the Null Follow-Up effect. You can even run some other skills like Ruse skills, for example, which is going to be really helpful. And Infantry Null Follow-Up can always be replaced with Infantry Pulse if you want it. You can even use them in Summoner Duels as a raid boss support unit, and you can run Even Pulse Tie and even pulse down some of the tanks and armor units with Hardy Fighter and pre-charge special. And because Gerik's buff is global and you don't really need to maintain any kind of proximity to him, you can easily use him as a raid boss support unit. So he can be used there, and he can also be used for just pulsing down the ally who's going to be functioning as a raid boss pretty much. If you're going to be using Gerik for his own combat, then like I said, he's going to be functioning as a pretty good Gale Force unit because of the half tempo effect built in his weapon. This allows him to completely ignore the guard skills and, Gale Force really well with Flashing Blade 4 and Blade Session. So this is a way of using him on a Gale Force team, either in the light season or the Aster season. In both of these seasons, he's going to be pretty good, but he's especially really good with the pulse effect of Asker already on top of the light season, along with the support that Gerik gives. So the lower cooldown specials of your Gale Force allies is much better. Ideally, having like a 2 cooldown Gale Force is the best thing because then you can easily get the Gale Force off, and having 1 cooldown on some of the allies is going to be even better because you don't even need any kind of like blade skill or any kind of special charging. So that is going to be really good, and he's going to be a top tier Gale Force support unit in Aether Raids offense. You can also use him in the combat itself for stuff like a God Axe build. So you can run the Finish Kill, Close Call, and Speed Smoke 4. And Vital Astra is mainly going to be functioning as a damaging special because he unfortunately doesn't have Time Pulse in his weapon. It's only Quicken Pulse. So you can run Time Pulse and pre-charge Vital Astra, but looping it is going to be a bit annoying. So you can run Darting Breath and basically make use of the half tempo effect and always retaliate back with Vital Astra. And he's completely panic proof, so you can completely buff him up to your heart's content, and he's going to be able to function with that. You can also run him with Distant Attack Speed Solo and the new Spurn 4. So all of those skills are going to be really good for making him an Omni Tank as well. So his builds for the combat are kind of standard, but I think where he really shines is definitely with his support. Kempf gets a Weapon Refine in the month of July, and he has got Venom Edge, which can give him +3 defense. And now with the Weapon Refine, he's able to get +8 to all of his stats in the combat, and also get 30% damage reduction on foe's first attack. And after the combat, if he attacked, then he can inflict the following status effects to the target and the foes within 2 spaces of that target. So he can inflict the 10 splash damage, which is really good, and the flash status, and also the Discord status, which we have only seen before on Duo Shamir. So Discord is a new status effect which gives you Spectrum -X on the foe in the combat, and the X depends on 2 plus the number of allies within 2 spaces, and this can go up to max -5 Spectrum debuff on all of these stats. So it is basically like an anti-form effect where it can punish the allies for being close together. So this is definitely going to be a pretty nice effect to him, as his main job is basically functioning as a big annoying unit who can spread the flash status, and now he can also spread the Discord status, and he can even run Fatal Smoke or Panic Smoke and get another status effect on the enemy, which is going to be even more annoying for them. So basically he's going to be doing his job with this Weapon Refine, and he does get some sustainability with the damage reduction, so he at least he's going to be able to survive many times because of the extra stats and the damage reduction that he can get. And having the Discord status is definitely the cherry on top. For building up Kempf on a budget, you can definitely just build around the splash damage with double Savage Blow build and also run Poison Strike. And Attack Speed Solo is available in the Grail pool now, so it is going to be a skill that he can run in his slot A basically, and just do a lot of splash damage. So something like this is going to be helpful in something like PvE, for example, and can also be useful in Arena Assault. If you're going to be building him up with more skills, then you can definitely run some skills from Divine Codes like Attack Speed Cat, Speed Defense Near Trace, and also Fatal Smoke. So Fatal Smoke is definitely a really good skill that he can run in his slot C because it is going to be giving the Deep Wound status on the enemy, which is going to be preventing them from healing up the splash damage and can make him even more annoying. So this is a skill that Kempf really likes, and if you got him in the Hollow Forms, you probably got this skill on him, so it is still really good, and you can just run Moonbow as a special. You can also run Attack Speed Clash 4 and Flow and Trace as the max investment options, and Panic Smoke 4 is also going to be an option as a pretty nice skill which you can run in the slot C for getting the foe penalty doubler effect, and also for panicking the enemy. And Ruptured Sky is going to be a high investment special that he can also run. So he's going to be stacking the most amount of offenses that he can get, and also get the attack speed debuff neutralization, also getting the half null follow up with the Flow and Trace skill, and also getting the Canto effect. So this is basically the max investment Kempf that he can build up. I suppose just like the old days, you can also try and use him in Aether Raids defense and pretty much make him as an annoying unit. So back in the days, he used to be quite a popular unit to be used along with Legendary Eliwood, for example, as a lunge unit. Now lunge is going to be, something you can run, but it doesn't have the best synergy with the Discord status that he can inflict, so you can just run lull attack defense and defense res catch 4 from Summer Freyr combat manual, and this can be really helpful so that he can be bulky enough to hopefully survive and be annoying, and Escutcheon is also something that he can run. So the idea of this build is to be as bulky as you can and just be as annoying as you can on an Aether Raids defense team. And particularly in the light season, this is going to be helpful because Embla does disable the safe tanks, and this is pretty good because Omni tanks, you know, they are going to be suffering against the Fatal Smoke effect, the Discord status, and also the Flash status which he can inflict. So he's going to be an annoying unit and definitely something you can use in Aether Raids defense if you're a big fan of him. Ross gets a dual phase brave weapon which has got 10 might, and it also gives him -5 attack and defense debuff on the opponent in the combat, and he also gets true damage based on 15% of his HP at start of the combat, and finally he can heal up 7 HP after the combat. So this weapon refine is unfortunately not that good. The reason being is that it doesn't really have good synergy with a lot of the things. He's not fast enough to run close call for and those kinds of speedy builds. And with a brave weapon, you can usually just run Vantage builds, but Vantage is not going to be having good synergy with the HP condition and the healing that he gets. So that also is not good, and just he's kind of missing some of the effects which he would have liked, because like in the primary effect of the weapon, he could have used like 1 or 2 extra effects and that would have just changed it quite a bit. And we already have Har as a really nice dual phase brave axe unit, and he also has axes to guard bearing 4. So yeah, that is even more insane when you compare this weapon to that. And unfortunately this weapon refine is kind of late. This would have worked out like 2 years ago, but at this point we've got such stacked weapon refines even on free to play units like Har for example, Cormac for example, that this weapon refine doesn't really do too much for Ross. I definitely do appreciate how it tries to do something unique with his high HP, which is giving him true damage. But still, unfortunately, that extra damage is not going to be enough in today's day and age where we have got so much damage reduction, so many fast units, and a lot of null follow-up. So yeah, that is basically Ross's weapon refine, which is going to be a disappointment for many Ross fans. And you're probably better off waiting for an arcane axe that is suited for slower units and maybe can give a guaranteed follow-up attack. So that could probably help you a bit more than this weapon refine, because this weapon refine isn't really all that insane and is like barely functional. So if you want to build him up, then you definitely want to invest a bit more into him with the Ascendant asset to his HP, which is a super boon, and also his attack asset. And you can just run attack defense ideal, lull attack defense, and unfortunately slow units don't really have access to a lot of skills. You can also run the squad Ace BT skill, which is going to be giving you extra HP and also +3 attack and defense, which is really helpful. You can also run him with Sturdy Impact and a Brash Assault 4 build. So with the Brash Assault 4, he's going to be able to get the quad attacks, especially when he's not facing null follow-up enemies. And damage reflection is also something that is going to be useful. But keep in mind that the damage reflection is only going to be taking place on the 3rd hit. It is not going to be applied on the 4th hit as well. So you can definitely try and use this player phase build with Sturdy Impact and Brash Assault 4. And finally, at max investment, you can use Fire Flood Boost or Fire Earth Boost whenever that comes out. That is going to be a better skill. But yeah, basically these boost 4 skills are going to be pretty nice with Ross and his HP condition so that you can get even more true damage out of it. And Summoner Support of course helps a weapon like this, where you want to have more HP so that you can do more true damage with a dual phase brave weapon. And Special Spiral 4 is going to be really helpful for bypassing the damage reduction, which is so omnipresent at this point. The final refine of this patch is going to be for Perceval. So Prized Lance does have -1 special cooldown, and with this weapon refine, he's able to get +8 to all of his stats and also get true damage based on 15% of his speed. And he also inflicts guard effect on the enemy in the combat and has got full null follow-up with his weapon refine, and also gets the half tempo effect, the offensive half, which is basically null guard. So it definitely gives him a lot of the things that he needed, and the extra true damage is definitely useful because he doesn't have the highest attack stat, but he can definitely work as a Lance Cavalier now after this weapon refine. This weapon refine might seem a bit boring to a lot of people, but it is practical enough, and at the very least it's like a side grade to Arcane Lewin, which is something I appreciate. At least the weapon refine should be bare minimum be like the side grades to the arcane weapons, which this is. So if you're going to be running Arcane Lewin, then you basically trade off some of the effects, but you still have null follow-up, and that is going to be a good thing. So having null follow-up no matter which weapon you run is really good, especially on a cavalry unit, which usually do not have access to full null follow-up that easily, or even the half tempo effect which he has got. So overall, this weapon refine is pretty useful, and if you're a big Perceval fan, then you can definitely try and build around this weapon refine and at least function as a pretty nice Lance Cavalier. So on a budget, you can definitely use them with attack speed solo 4, which you can get from the divine codes rather easily, and simply run him with a budget build with his base kit. And you can also run him with attack speed catch 4, speed defense near trace, and speed defense menace as well from the divine codes. So that is going to be the divine codes build that you can run. And Luna is going to be a good special because especially with the half tempo effect, you're going to be able to trigger it a lot more consistently, which is really good. And then you can also use him with Sword Sparrow, and this is where the half tempo effect can really shine because you can easily trigger the Luna skill and heal up a lot of the HP and function in a player phase build. So the half tempo effect is really helpful along with the full null follow-up because you don't really have to run flow and trace on Perceval, and you can just get the debuffs from speed defense near trace. And finally, at max investment, you can run him with attack speed clash 4, for getting that attack and speed debuff neutralization, and also running speed smoke 4 for the dodge status and making him really tanky along with the god effect and the full null follow up. So you can basically function like a god lance but as a cavalier, which is definitely really interesting. Make sure to share this video with your friends if they're trying to build up any of these units with the new weapon refines, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and a comment, helps me tremendously. And if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Ross's weapon refine, unfortunately. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.